keeping it simple, like Carol, and being like, what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? What do I know here?
Mm. Yeah.
Like trusting myself that I'm
Yes.
going to be the one who's going to get me out of this situation.
Okay, well, welcome to Carol and Linda. We have here today for, I think this is episode 5 of Living Magic, this occult cast episode. Hello, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Fola.
Hello. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to do a little bit of your intro, like a bio for both of you, if I may. I believe I met, who did I meet first? I think it was Linda I met first. So it was through Carol because like my sister is friends with Carol's daughter, and then we were able to connect through Access, getting the Access bars run. But yes, so Linda Rizzoli is based out of Mayerthorpe area here in Alberta and is a certified access consciousness facilitator, talk to the entities facilitator, a coach and body worker. And yeah, I would say from what I know of you, Linda, you travel and like experience playfulness through travel and asking lots of questions and yeah, you've been instrumental with me on my path as well. So thank you so much for
Oh,
being here. Yeah, I
thank
appreciate
you.
it. And your sisters. So we have got Carol. Like I just like love how being a, having a sister myself and the desire that she too will walk like a metaphysical path and recognizing that that's not always what sisters get, and yet here you are, Carol, like having your sister next to you, you both like work together. And so Carol is based out of Kindersley, Saskatchewan, and is also a trained access consciousness certified facilitator, a Reiki master. And as we were just talking about, I'm putting two and two together. Like I put a curio of the past life. So you're in the process now of going into the QHHT, which I made a video on actually in maybe a year ago now. So yeah, definitely amazing to hear that you're supporting people with tapping into past life pieces and how that influences them in this life now.
Yes.
Um, yeah, that's super. And I'd be curious too to hear. Maybe we'll get to that because I think you have like quite a passion for folks, maybe who are facing addiction and going through the recovery process, and you kind of tie in a lot of the access stuff and what you know into that realm as well. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of different energy, like stuff. Like,
Mhm.
too, when we're on this energy path, it can lead into many different multiple ways and areas of showing up too.
Yes, yeah,
Mhm.
totally. Well, that just makes me think. I was watching a video the other day, and the gal was like, "You might seem confused, and it's because you're a multidimensional person." And it's like me, it's like, and I see that with both of you, like, well, you're multidimensional, and I feel like what with that within access consciousness, they talk about that. And I wonder, what does that word mean for you? Multidimensional. How is it that you show up in like a multidimensional way?
Carol, you want the baton?
Well, how does that show up in this lifetime? Like, is that ADHD kind of stuff? Like, ooh, there's that, there's this. Oh, I'm interested in that, and this, and there's all of those little sparkles that you chase. Is
Yeah.
that kind of what you're referring to? And that you can have interest and curiosity in multiple things. And I don't ever really feel like I've totally arrived at, oh, now I've learned everything I want to learn and I can sit down and rest. Like it's having that curiosity about so many different things, and it will lead you into different areas. I don't know if that sort of is what you're looking for, if that's giving you an answer, or if I'm just talking around in circles.
No, it does. It does. And the thing that, well, two things stood out, and I would love to hear from you too, Linda, is like the word sparkle, which like to me is magic, and that's kind of what this is all about. And also the point of like, it doesn't matter where we are in our life, that like that feeling of not landing, I think was the phrase you used. Like, I think that's what almost makes us multidimensional is that there's no like end destination point. we're just constantly evolving and expressing ourselves. Yeah, Linda, like, what are your thoughts about that term? Or
Yeah, I love what you're bringing up, that continually expanding energy that you're talking about. You're a little bit frozen, Fola, but I'm just going to keep talking, and hopefully it records as you want it to. I was just actually thinking about this morning on my walk. I have a big ask with my body, creating something different. And I was reading a book, and it was talking about how, like, creating your body for just the sake of having a nice body just like isn't enough. Like, if you just want to create your body to have nice genes, like, that's not exciting enough to actually help you actualize that. So for me, when I think of multidimensional, it's like living life not to just these tiny endpoints, but to this really expansive future, and to that thing that you're speaking to, Fola, of no endpoint. It's putting everything that I'm up to in the context of something really big. Like, everything is just a thread in this really big tapestry of my life that reaches beyond just this lifetime.
which is kind of counter to what our society, I would say, encourages. Totally.
Well, that's like lose the 10 pounds so you look good in your jeans, instead of like create a magnificent body that helps you create a magnificent future that is part of this future that is possible 500 years from now.
And that when you lose those 10 pounds and look good in your jeans,
Yeah.
then you can be happy. Then your life will be complete.
Different. Yeah.
It is. It's exactly opposite. I think that was one of the questions or like little points I put on the notes. Like I said, it's like that concept within access consciousness that it's like everything is the opposite it appears to be. I think there's something within that mindset shift that can be supportive if we almost, and maybe you can both touch on this because that's how I perceive like a lot of the work that you both do. It just like stirs things up in the complete opposite way and helps one to perceive things with like a new perspective so that then we can approach life and have more of that sparkle, have more of that joy, have the experience of happiness in the now moment, instead of trying to put it off until retirement or put it off until whatever that goal is.
Carol and I are always just both like trying to politely wait for the other one. What would it take for us to be really graceful with these segues? I love that energy of everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be, because we get like life happens, and some of it is so bubbly and sparkly, and some of it seems just like a big flop. And whenever we just like decide we know what has gone on and start to pick apart the problem, then we can create a problem and like really just like knot up our ball of string, our multifaceted ball of string. But when we can just like be like, wait a minute, everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. Everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. Like, we can invite ourselves to get curious about what's actually going on. If it's not just one thing, not just one way, not just a problem, what else is possible and what else is going on here?
And I think of it as opening up different doors for us to be able to see things in different ways. Like, we're like, lots of times in this world, I've been taught to refer to the past. So then I know, like Linda's saying, I know what this is because, oh, there I am. I'm doing that same thing I do in relationship again.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm creating, my point of view creates my reality. So then I've bought into, there's that old pattern and I'm stuck there and I'm just going to keep doing that and I'm going to fuck everything up. So when I can do that sort of that reset button of everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be, it reminds me that this isn't something, I haven't been here before. I get to open up those doors and actually have that curiosity about what this is. What if it isn't what I think it is? What if it's different? Like what Linda has said. It's just, it gets me out of my own thinking patterns and opens up different doors of possibilities as I'm moving forward.
Oh, I love that, Carol. I've never been here before. That's great.
Well, and as you can tell by my white hair, I'm getting like, I'm 61 and I have so many of my friends and the people that are my age, they're just doing the same old thing, and I hung out with a woman that I know and I said, do you want to do this? Well, no. I had this experience when I was 19 and no, I don't want to do that. I
Wow.
said, well, let's go. They're having a free paint night at the museum. Oh, no. I don't do that. I never have done that in my life. I don't want to do it now, and let's go and try this. No, no. I don't like that stuff. And there was so much of that, referring to the past. This is going to be just the same way as it was before. And I don't like any of that stuff. And it just creates such a shutdown, such a small little life. In fact, to the point where I said, do you want to watch a movie? And the lady, the friend of mine kind of said, sure, yeah, let's watch a movie. And I said, okay, do you want to come and sit in the other chair? Well, no, I'm sitting right here. And I said, well, we could turn the TV a little bit, but it was just, I thought, oh my goodness, like I'm so blessed to have got to work with this stuff and be shown these tools so that at my age, I don't have to just be, no, I can't do that. No, this is what it is. This is how it is. This is how it's going to happen. So no, I'm just going to sit here in the same chair, not do anything different.
That's kind of interesting. Like, what's the name of your podcast? This podcast?
Oh,
Is it
Living Magick?
Living Magic. So, like, I think we can tend to think of magic as something that like falls out of the sky on us, rather than that we can make these little tiny choices that Carol's talking about. Walk through these like maybe scary doors and start to just like kindle that magic up in our lives. Maybe we can start with some little tiny magic and not just be in a land of wishful thinking that we hope magic just falls out of the sky on us.
Yeah, totally. Even like I was telling Polly, I'm like, what if like I was walking across the bridge? I'm like, what if I just waved down at the people below and just, hey, it's been such a long time. And I don't know them. And it's like, what would that like lack of normalcy stir up within me and also within them or another observer? And it's like that, like it excited me. There was a bit of this like energy of potential, a bit of energy too. What I hear with both of you is like the Fool card in the tarot. It's like the very first card. It's like the jester about to step off the cliff into the unknown. There's this uncertainty and there's the fear, like you're saying, Carol, of like, if I switch a spot in my chair even, or go to a paint night, like what could that bring up internally? And yeah, I think it's as simple as like these choices that we make. And I feel like that's a huge part even of what access consciousness brings up. It's like, well, how do you know what the choices are if we don't ask the questions though? Like,
yeah, it's a little bit too, in my mind, I can connect dots that seem maybe far away, but let's see how they work. Everything is the opposite of what it appears to be. Nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. So if you just try to make like one big choice that is everything, like I'm going to sit in my same chair and I'm never going to go out and do anything new and I'm just going to wait. until the moment when I can move to Hawaii. You know, then you can be sitting in your chair forever. So if you can make a choice that seems like nothing, nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. Maybe it's a little bit of a whole bunch of nothing. You're just making nothing choice after nothing choice. And that's like slowly turning the trajectory of your entire life. That's magic.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, Linda. That's such a good way of putting it.
We are all sitting around the cauldron and adding our little bits to it.
Yeah. And it takes a while to turn the Titanic. You know,
The Titanic, you make it sound like you're my life is the Titanic.
And they all died in the end. Like that's not what
Oh my goodness. Well, and even just like every time I attend like a group you put on, or either both of you together, it's or on your own, like I would just want to speak to the level of playfulness that you hold, you know, like that, and it like the deep belly laughter that comes. Like what about that within like the concept of creating your life or going after the things that you feel like desired? Your desire for. Do you mind sharing a bit about that playfulness that like you live in?
Do you want to go first, Linda?
I was just thinking this, I'm going to outweight Carol. I'm just going to see
Ah,
her quietly. I'm going to outweight her.
And we will drink in deeply.
No, no, no.
you didn't even decide who's going.
No, I really, in my mind, I think it's Carol. I'm voting Carol.
Well,
Okay.
I think I started out with humor sort of as a survival technique, but then it really became fun. And it sort of taught me, in spite of myself, like everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be, that everything is ridiculous. Like some of the intensity and the seriousness with which we go at this thing that we call life is pretty silly, and most moments, if it's going to be funny in a month, it's going to be funny in a year, like what is the humor here? Where is the humor and the fun here, and how can I make it not quite so serious? And that, yeah, it's just that's kind of where I started out with it anyways.
Yeah, that was a piece of advice that Carol gave me. I remember about something. I was probably crying over something that happened in my life. And Carol had told me, well, just remember, Linda, if it's going to make a funny story, it's all worth it. I kind of made it a bit lighter because then I was able to look at it through this lens of, oh, yeah, oh, yes, I am going to be able to hold court with this story and have some people laughing, which is worth it to me. It's like one of the asks of my life is to have more of that belly laughter that you're talking about, Fola, and to invite others, whoever would like to have it, to come and play along. There's a quote in one of the Access Consciousness manuals that says, when you're laughing, you're not holding anything back. It's just like such a bone, like that's my heart there. When I'm really laughing, there's my heart. So I had looked at it as, oh, it's a coping mechanism. It's a way of like, of hiding from other people. But in that everything is the opposite kind of vein, it like Access Consciousness and Carol invited me to the vulnerability of true laughter and how much of me is really showing up when I'm laughing. And then when I'm really being me, it's so much easier to change those things that are like heavy and stuck.
And how much of that multidimensional stuff that you were talking about, like there's this part where I just, had some thing that I could interpret as tragic. And then there's that part about this this thing that is really quite hilarious. You know, like I'm on my way to my wedding and, you know, there's this thing going on and that thing going on. And, you know, I'm crying and I'm wanting to run away and it's fucking hilarious, you know, at the same time. So I don't know where.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that. And that's one thing facing it. And how do you both kind of face that or handle that? You know, sometimes people that you meet don't want to hear those funny stories or they won't find the humor within it. You know, they might not understand some of the practices or ways that you perceive the world. How have you learned to kind of, you know, brush that off and continue on your path? Has it become easier, you know, as you've gone down this path or?
Well, like actually, when we sign our contract with Access Consciousness, one of the things that we agree to, literally, it's on the contract as facilitators, it says, don't be a dick.
Okay.
So I can use humor in a way that lightens and brightens my world. But also, Fola, if you just had a tragedy happen and I'm going to walk in and do some comedy routine about it, I'm kind of being a dick, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the ways that I use humor is to my own delight. And then I also be intelligent about where it's going to work and where it's not. And sometimes I will like fling off a lighthearted joke and it will land flat and then I just leave it and keep walking. I don't try to like beat a dead horse, but I think there is a level of intelligence. Humor is a really smart and intelligent thing. So you've got to, it's not just like throwing away your intelligence and being goofy, especially at the expense of others. So laugh and don't be a dick.
Yeah, very good disclaimer, Linda. Very good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it makes me think, I don't remember where I heard this, but like one of the occult writers, Aleister Crowley, someone was just talking about, well, if you think about him, you know, he was perceived as like the evilest man in the world back in like 1920s or whenever, or 1910, right? And he kind of was the one to perpetuate the stuff in the media. And the journalists would ask him questions about things that he had written in some of his texts that uh, maybe an untrained eye would be like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Like, why would anyone say that? Like, he's doing
Mm-hmm.
really bad things. But they're like, well, just think if you put yourself in his shoes, like if you've been asked the same question like 100 times by journalists, would you not want to come to a place of sort of like humor and maybe feed the story in a way that like leaves the person kind of just dumbfounded? And
Yeah,
um, so it makes me think a bit about that. Like I think like what you're saying, not being a dick and yet also recognizing, I guess, people's stories or their own experiences or beliefs are going to impact them. Which,
totally.
like, you know, we've been talking about access consciousness, but I feel like many people don't actually know what it is. Do you both mind, like, just sharing a bit about maybe what some of those values are, what the system itself, if I can call it a system, represents, and what someone could expect, possibly?
Yeah, I Access is a company that has like created all of these energetic based tools um, in many different ways. Some of it is hands-on body work, some of it is verbal processing. There's books and classes and all kinds of ways to access these tools, which are all designed. The name of the company is Access Consciousness. So it's like at the heart of it all is the desire for everyone in the world to be able to access greater consciousness.
Okay.
And to empower each individual to know that they know something and what you know is different than what I know. And it's not designed to get people dependent on anything or anyone. It's designed to empower the individual to know that they know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, you both teach and share a lot within the aspects of like conscious or access consciousness. So I definitely will put your information so people can check that out, maybe even the website for access consciousness in the description so people can see. Like for both of you, if you feel like sharing, like what kind of led you to that path? Like, was there some pivotal moment on your like spiritual journey that was just like, oh, and then you found access consciousness or some other modality? Like, what was that like for you? I'll just say we're gonna start with you, Carol.
I was doing the things the way I should be doing them. Like I went to school, I got married, I had the 2 kids, and then my life started to fall apart. Like I thought I had done everything that I was supposed to do, and then what the hell? It wasn't working. My husband was getting really sick. All of my control and force was falling apart. All of my, the tools that I looked at, like the medical system, et cetera, none of that was working. So I started to hunt for things. And even in Beachy, Saskatchewan in 1999, I found Reiki. And so I started doing that. And I was always just like one treatment away from quitting because it was just too weird, for little Beachy, Saskatchewan. It was a very, community with lots of church and lots of those kinds of things. And this was frowned upon, but it was kind of working. And then I just was always sort of hunting and looking for more things, taking different classes, doing another treatment and another treatment, having another conversation. And eventually, like through different, like I did theta, I did body talk, I did lots of different modalities. And eventually I was led to the bars and to access consciousness and all the tools under that umbrella.
Thank you.
And then Carol, I always say Carol tricked me into access.
That's how it happened.
That's how it happened. Yeah, Carol was doing, Carol's my older sister, so you can never, there's always that like push and pull of like you really honor and respect what their influence in your life, and at the same time you want to do your own thing and never copy and never follow. So that was kind of Carol's area. So I was like, well, I can't do that because that's Carol's turf. I got to I've got to forge my own path in the world. and and then her and I were doing a retreat together, facilitating a retreat together. And she kind of said, like, why don't you come to my Access Bars class just so you have a sense of how I work, what I facilitate. And then as we create this retreat together, we'll just be able to, our paths will merge seamlessly, and I went to, I went to Carol's Access Bars class, and then I just started using the tools. And I kind of thought that they were crazy. Like, we call them the tools, but they're really pragmatic, like questions and things that you just use in your own life when stuff gets heavy and tense. And I started using those little tools. And I remember just being like standing in my kitchen one day going, holy shit, like I think they actually work. Like just asking, how does it get better than this? I think it actually works. So eventually I just kind of was like, okay, like these tools are so effective that I'm just going to leap in and see what happens.
Yeah, cool. Oh, did you want to say something, Carol?
Well, just as a side note, I thought this was the most incredible bars class that had ever been taught on the earth. And Linda seemed to not be moved by it at all.
Respect it.
So you have heard people who will say, like, I was going to commit suicide and I got my bars run and my whole life changed. And I was kind of like, meh, it's okay. Meh.
But you stuck with it.
But these damn questions worked when I took them home and used them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what would you say, like, if both of you don't mind sharing, your favorite question, if you had to pick one, like say you're in like this might be really dark, but like you're being held
Go
hostage
dark.
or something, and it's like you only get one question. That's a bad that you know what I mean. But anyway, what would that one question be that you're like, I know this has shifted life or created new possibilities? What would that be?
I would have asked the question before I got kidnapped.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I would be using the
Okay.
questions hopefully.
Before the kidnapping actually happened.
Okay, well, what would that question be then?
What's your question, Carol?
Well, I guess like the question, like what question could I ask now? Like what else is possible? Like that is such a, sort of a question that you can use in just about any situation that is pretty easy to remember, and it's not complicated.
Yeah, when you're panicking because of the guns to your head.
Yes.
I can see, like, you want to keep it simple. What else is possible? I love it. And like Carol had been sharing about how access is all about empowering us. So I think I would be like keeping it simple, like Carol, and being like, what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? What do I know here?
Yeah.
Like trusting myself that I'm going to be the one who's going to get me out of this situation.
And you wouldn't have got on the bullet train then that was going to be, loaded up with the bombs, and that, that you would have thought, oh, what do I know? No, I think I'm going home now to sit on the couch. And
You know what it would be with a gun to my head? Everything is the opposite of what it appears to be.
Is now the time to tell a joke?
Yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, because I really do feel that question is super important. And it's funny, I find when, say, if I just pose a question to a friend, just pose one of these
Yeah.
questions, people's automatic need or to respond with an answer. I think we're just so ingrained to, and maybe it's our schooling to respond with, oh, this, instead of remaining in the place of like curiosity. And I almost like liken it even in the like occult sense of with our tree of life, there's this area called the abyss, and it's like a place where you kind of get lost in like the dark nothingness, and that's a part of the journey. And really, it's almost like we want to transcend it, and so to speak, but also learn to just be within that fall. I think you used that word control before, Carol. Like, yeah, I think many of us have that we try to control, and yet things are still falling or not going the way we want. And to me, it's like question can help to almost open up the abyss so that we can just be in this place of open possibility and trusting that it's going to land exactly the way it needs to, or will land, I suppose, if you think about that.
I love that energy of like being present in the chaos that you're talking about, because question is really disorienting to others, and like that's part of the gift of it that you're giving yourself to, and asking myself me asking myself questions is to disorient myself a little bit, to get out of the routine and into the, okay, I've never been here before. What is actually possible? And then even when you're sure everything's going wrong, it allows the doors that Carol was talking about to start to open.
Oh, I'm not sure if you wanted to say something, Carol. So that's okay.
Well, and even just like you're talking about, like interjecting questions into situations, and kind of like that question that Linda's talking about, like, what do you know about that? You know, that sort of really open-ended thing, and it's presenting a different, like that, what do you know about that? You know, whatever that situation is, you know, and it's not that there's a right answer or a wrong, you know, that right or wrong stuff.
Mhm.
There's no judgment in that. There's no, it's just that energy of that door opening and that possibility. Like, what if you, like, what do you know about that?
It's super out of control. Like it's uncomfortable even to be the asker of the questions.
Yes.
Because isn't it easier, like Fola, you have a daughter, isn't it easier just to tell your kid what they should be doing?
Mhm.
um,
For the
and
most
then
part.
what kind of person are you, like what are you feeding if you're just always just telling people what to
Mhm.
do and controlling situations? But it takes like courage and presence even to ask those questions of your kid or anyone around you.
And not to give them an answer, you
Yeah.
know, like to be able to shut up and let that chaos exist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mm, I love that.
Ooh,
Let
yeah,
that
that's
chaos
definitely one,
exist.
you know, I'm sure many people even listening, they would identify as someone like whether you call yourself a healer or a light worker, you know, like people who kind of hold a certain energy in the world,
Yeah.
where people look up to you, you know,
Yeah.
like, and it's maybe different when it's a child and a parent, because, you know, there's a bit of that dynamic there. But just in general in our in the world now, it's like many folks are looked up to. And so to be
Hmm.
able to ask a question back to someone's, you know, inquiry about what they should do in life,
Hmm.
it can be a challenge. And I catch myself with my kid, you know, she'll maybe ask me something and then I want to like say, oh well, like you should, like, oh no, like, because that was very much what like my parents would just tell me, right?
Yeah.
Like I think many of our parents just told that was kind of the expectation. And now though, it's like kind of reflecting it back, that question, so that what I see, and I hope for my kid, and I hope for the world, is more of that sense of like connection to inner body knowing or the intuition and that
Yeah.
trust in self. I guess what kind of what Access is about, like the empowerment aspect,
Yeah.
like that each individual knows they can be there and trust they're supported and that they're going to make the choices that are best for them,
Yeah.
and learn the way they need to learn.
Oh, imagine that world full of though, like if we raised all our daughters and sons like that, empowering them to trust that deep inner knowing that you're talking about. Oh, that's like, huh, it's chaotic. And there it's just like puts a sweet shiver up my spine what individuals like that could create.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And not needing to prove to anybody else that you know something as
Mhm.
the questioner, like
Mhm.
that you can
Yeah.
lead that. And, you know, like you're talking about that looking up to, whether it's the parent, I want my kid to know that I'm smarter than them, or
Mm.
whether it's the energy worker or the person at work, like I want to prove that I know something and that I'm smart.
Yeah.
You know, so being able to recognize that in myself and not acting on it.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot because that is, that to me is like the power there. That's really like the not like self-centered, but empowered place to be, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And knowing that about yourself and not having to prove it to anyone. Like
Mm.
be okay, they can think I'm an idiot, it doesn't matter.
I
Like
maybe yeah,
it's not about me at all. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
that place where I was trained from to make it always about me, and it's so not. It's so
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and like, so family wise, because I even to hear that made me think back to an experience I had just the other week with my mom. I can't remember what we were talking about there, like my dad, my mom, and I. And my mom asked me a question about something, and I was like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." And she like was like, wait, like stop everything, everyone. Fola doesn't know something I know. Like that's what she said to me. And I was like, what? Like it was such a weird thing. And then I realized there was this part of me back here that was wanted to defend and be like, oh, I do know. Like,
Yeah.
and I quickly realized like, oh my gosh, I've totally played that role or energy around her. And here she is now in a position where she like kind of got like a moment of glory with her intellect and knowledge, like, which like
Wow.
I was like, great. But even that part that felt injured was like, oh no, you gotta like speak something to make sure
Yeah.
she knows who's in charge, kind of thing. But like, I'm saying that because it's like that's not something I was really conscious of. And yet, stepping into magic, stepping into the healing work, whatever modality it is, these are things that show up and these like connections with our family dynamics. And both of you have shared some things around when you like growing up and you're together and you get a witness with each other. But how is that like, how has this work and knowing that you're both doing it kind of like in parallel, if I could say, as siblings, how has that like impacted your family dynamic as like a whole systemic way, but also like individually, if you don't mind sharing about that?
Oh yeah, like our family has been a huge like I want to say playground where we can use the tools, but not all of it has been really fun. um and I know that like kind of as I reach for myself to be greater and to access more of my consciousness, it pays off for everybody. And so Carol has hugely contributed to that. And then like there's definitely times I've still gotta like I've got to choose this for myself. And then just let the ripple wave out wherever it waves. So I can definitely, I like Carol and I both have moments with our parents where it's been miraculous because we've just each individually chosen to be greater than what we were the day before or 30 years before, and then it just changes the dance with who my parents can be. It opens something up, yeah, but you can never predict what it will open, I guess. What do you think, Carol?
Well, I remember one time when that like you're talking about that sister thing and like all of this stuff. I remember one time when Linda was down. Now, interject here, Linda, because I'm not sure if I'm remembering the whole story. But Linda was down and she was doing some energy work on Dad. And Linda's telling me about this, and Dad had had a really good experience. And I thought, oh, well, here I was down there the week before and I'd offered to do this on Dad, and Dad had said no. So I'm thinking, okay, this is like Dad likes Linda's energy work more than mine. And Linda, and then Linda, I said this to Linda, I said, that sort of is bringing up my stuff. And Linda said, laugh. She said, oh, I thought Dad would be thinking, oh, it's too bad it wasn't Carol.
Mm. You both had your own views about it.
We both did. I was sure they like were all on Carol is so magnificent, and Linda's like a want, and she thought the same thing.
Yeah, like she's the newer, better version, Carol says going along, or Chevy's getting old, or whatever that is, and they're so it is. And also that thing of being able to be supportive of Linda, and so sometimes I wonder what she's doing and I think, oh, I don't want to get in her way. I don't want to be controlling or have her, have to present what she's doing to me in some restricted way. So I don't know, that probably sounds really fucked up, but there is that, sort of being interested and intrigued what she's doing, but also not standing in the way or making her feel you know, like in any way tied to anything that I have done. Does that make sense?
Well, and yeah, like it just reminds me of how, like in this world, having a family, yeah, I'm just checking the time too. Um, like sisters can be such a great gift, and it can be really weird. Like that sister stuff can be really weird and not all super healthy. So we have definitely had to navigate when that weird stuff comes up for each of us, and kind of and then just see what else is possible, you know, like how does it get better than this? um because is a world where I just am like never like doing access consciousness in the first place, if I would have avoided seemingly being competitive with my sister, then I would have cut out this whole huge rich part of my world. So then I have to be able to step into that arena that is Carol's and really be present with those energies of competitiveness and stuff, and kind of get to something that's way more true and way more spacious and way more light.
Yeah. So yeah, just being with all of that stuff
Yeah.
in this the weird family, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
stuff,
I
and
agree.
still being in total allowance of the other person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it sounds like love to me, the way I hear it. So that's awesome. Thank
Sounds
you.
like love.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
and this is where the birds go off and
You know, and I just want to share, yeah, we're going to wrap up here, but I want to share was I was like writing my email to you both with the questions and everything. I was just sitting there looking out the window, and all the wildlife outside just started booming. Like all of a sudden there were two blue jays even, and like
Yeah.
the birds were trying to get into the house through the window. Like I don't even, like one bird went and sat on the edge of the, like the ledge of the window and
Yeah.
was peering inside the house. Like it was so bizarre. But I just want to say, like, to me, that just shows me how magical you both are. You know, the energy is flowing with you. And like, so yeah, those birds are singing outside, I feel.
That's amazing. I
It's
love
pure
it.
love. But and I want to say thank you to both of you for being here. Before we close off, is there anything you'd like to share, like any offerings or ways which people can kind of work or connect with you? Yeah, if you'd like to share that.
Yeah, I have a website, lindarizzoli.com. And I mean, people are always, you know, I'm out there a bit on different social media platforms. So please, you know, dig me up.
yeah, I've got a website and it's ctwellness.ca, and there's my contact information is on there. And yeah, I'm here in Kindersley doing different kinds of treatments and classes, and I've still got some of those free what are the QHHT sessions to do. So if anybody is physically in Kindersley or could be in Kindersley, I've got those, you know, offerings too, just as I practice doing that past life stuff. So thank you so much, Fola, and thank you, Linda.
Right? Thank you
Yes,
all.
thank you, ladies.
And
And I guess,
everyone listening. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, until next time. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.